Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I am the owner and the host of the Revival of America. He's back, everybody. Derek Johnson is in the house. He has been missed. God bless him. Keep the prayers up for he and his family, guys. You guys know the situation, but we're super happy that he is back, and I know all of you are as well. I have received a bunch of messages letting me know that you've missed him. You're glad he's back, and so we want to welcome my good friend and a true warrior out there, everybody, in this movement back to the podcast. Also, everybody, be careful who you listen to, who you follow, what you're putting in your mind. I know Derek Johnson calls them out all the time, and it's just getting so obvious, these fakesters, these fraudsters. You know the drill, everybody. It's in our faces. The people that have been screaming the loudest are not screaming so loud anymore. They're kind of going in the shadows, or they've gone in the shadows. So we say it for a reason, everybody, because there are the shysters out there that even when they submit a story to me to get on a podcast, I've called out a couple of them that they're fake stories. So that just goes to show you how desperate these people really are in trying to scam people. So please, guys, I say it for a reason because it's happening. So just be careful, everybody. It'll get easier as the days go on, but you're still going to find the shysters and the fraudsters out there. Also, too, everybody, if you come in late to the podcast, we are being listened to in 150 countries. So please follow the podcast host or the social medias, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, PocketCast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. Social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny Dreed, or at Jenny underscore Dreed X, at J Dreed Rumble, at J Dreed Instagram, at J Dreed True Social, the Revival of America right here on Telegram, and the Revival of America over on YouTube. Also, everybody, if you are trying to send me an email or send me a message, please, I'm centralizing everything to my emails, the revival of America at yahoo.com. It just gets too challenging because I get so many messages, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, X, wherever I'm at, right? So I get all the messages. It's just easier for you to send them there. I can respond to you there quicker. Again, the revival of America at yahoo.com. And also, last but not least, everybody, because I know you want to listen to Derek. But if you have a story or a journey to tell, you want to get your story on the podcast, please send me a brief synopsis of your story. I will read through it because I do vet them because there are the shysters. And if I believe it's a legitimate story, everybody, I'll reach back out to you via email and we'll get your voice, your story heard on the show. Because remember, everybody, it's going to be your voice, your stories that are going to help shape this new world that we are coming into. So without further ado, as SGN On says, and by the way, he will be on my show on Wednesday. But Derek Johnson is here, and I want to say hello, Derek. How are you, sweetie?
Well, I'm hanging in there. So,
And I
you
know
know,
you are. It's been hard, I'm sure, but I want you to know that we've all been thinking about you. You've been in my daily prayers every day, and you have an army of people behind you that love you, and we are here for you. So I just want you to know that.
I say thank you on my dad's behalf because he loved getting on Telegram and listening, and he loved people, uh, and he loved he loved hearing me rattle. He used to do things on purpose just where I would rattle off, and then he'd be like, all right, that's enough." And so he I always say, I'm like, "You like seeing your DNA in action?" I know. Uh, but yeah, so it's nothing that he and I have not talked about. We've talked about this for years. I had 43 good years with him. Uh, the one disagreement we ever had in life was because I took a full ride music scholarship, not a full ride golf scholarship to the University of Alabama. It's the only time we ever had a disagreement. Um, and the rest of it's just your typical father son relationship. So we had these conversations for years that it's the relationship that you have with someone that's going to count when they pass, because that's something that every man and woman has to do. We have to take that journey. And so, but there's nothing in the world that can prepare you, as he always said, for losing your mom or your dad. So, but we all have to do it. And so I'm just part of that journey now. And I know his memories, they're always right here already. And so it's just my duty now to carry on his legacy. Uh, that's what
Well,
I'm doing.
you sound great, and I can't imagine my father is still around, but I hear you on that. It's never easy. So, But you do sound great, and I'm really glad you're back. And so much, as you know, is happening. And I'm going to let you take this conversation wherever you want for. If you feel like want to take it shorter than normal. I know we do normally 90 minutes. It's in your hands, my friend, because I know you're just pretty fresh and getting back. I think last week was really when you started coming back to these shows, right?
Yeah, just because I don't, I don't know what protocol would be. Period, just for respect of my dad and his. You know, I didn't know what would be protocol, so I just decided on my own terms and let God handle the rest as far as my emotions go. Um, but there's uh, it's kind of ties in with everything else going on. Is that no matter what kind of person you are spiritually, and I'm not here to talk about religion, but at the same time, no matter what kind of person you are, there's nothing more important than your family. Outside of God, there's nothing more important. And sometimes even the strongest warriors out there, and I guess I think of myself sometimes that way without being pretentious and all the other things, but even the strongest warriors has to have a break. You have to relax. And also realize that if other warriors don't stand with you and stand next to you and fight with you, some things are not worth fighting for from the standpoint of if you got someone butting heads with you, a family member or a friend, whomever on that from that side of things. So sometimes you just need to put the phone down and just take a break, take a breather, go take a walk, take a hike, go fishing, go hunting, go golfing, go whatever it is you're doing. Because the simplest measure to find out what's going on is what President Trump's using. That's why it's so humorous whenever I see people get mad over, or say mad, but upset, bitter, angry, frustrated, or whatever. Is well, there's a blueprint there. President Trump's not waking up every morning at 80 years old going, "Hey guys, what you want to do today?" No, it's not. It's not even when he rolled down the escalator. When he rolled down that escalator way back in 2015, he already knew what's going on right now because the plan had already been laid out. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This took years of planning. And most of this stuff's real strategic, but it's also real easy from the standpoint of because you got to look at our artillery, you got to look at our weapons, you got to look at where we stand with the world already. All we needed someone was to get in there with the big kahunas to stand there and go, "I'll take it, I'll say it, I'll do it." That's it. Everything else was around him. And you have literally witnessed world history where it's a multi-tier exposure and it's a multi-tier also resetting of the declaration. There's so many things taking place. That's why it's hard for some people to comprehend. But the exposure, all you needed was someone to get up there and say, "I'll do it, I'll say it, and let's go." Then they're exposing what the past did not do right in front of you. All these national emergencies, they never did anything with. They just opened them up. They played diplomacy and they played diplomat and they played all that. You never saw any big sticks swinging. So President Trump took Roosevelt's term and said, "Speak softly, carry a big stick." And that's what he's been doing, kicking butt and taking names. And then on the flip side, when he had the military backing, our generals, you didn't need every general. And that's why too many people, my preacher and I were just talking about this today. Too many people focus on negative. It's just sometimes it's natural to focus on negative, unfortunately, but you can get 1,000 good emails and one bad email and you focus on the bad one, not all the good. Because the bad one is something that gets under your skin if you allow it. So what a lot of people have done, and like liberals do, even though there are not many of them now, but what they'll do is they just will combat everything just because. Like you get mad over a fight on the lawn of the White House. right? You get mad over that. Don't worry about all the different comms and optics and signals around it. Just take it for what it's worth. They get mad because there's a fight on the White House lawn. you you don't have much of a life if you get mad over that. So you're gonna always have negative. You're gonna always have combatives. The Bible tells you this. The Bible says in the very one of the most important verses of the whole Bible that I read in my father's ear before he passed. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, death in the Hebrew context there, if you look up that, it don't mean death in the natural. It means, yea, though I walk through darkness. It's not just death, physical death. It's darkness. Yea, though I walk through the darkness, I will fear no evil, for thine art with me. But see, what a lot of Christians don't do, and a lot of patriots are Christians, so you have to address it from a Christian standpoint. What a lot of Christians don't do is they walk around their God in name only. They're Jesus in name only. They're Jesus in mouth only. They're God in mouth only. They're Christians from the outside in, not the inside out. So they let fear overtake them. Then they want to run, cry, Lord, Lord, Lord. Well, the Bible tells you not all who cry, yeah, yeah, Lord, Lord, is going to enter the kingdom of heaven. So a lot of Christians operate off fear, not faith. Faith is unseen. That's what makes you such a strong believer. The Bible says God, he'll fight your battles for you, but you got to trust in him. You got to cast your cares on him, meaning cast it on him and leave it there. Trust in him. And so many people don't realize, like President Trump, God has used many people in the Bible that people on the carnal people of the flesh would have never dreamt that God would use. And if the thief on the cross can look at Jesus Christ and acknowledge him in that very moment and mean it in his heart, then God can use anybody. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing good versus evil, and good is winning because all the good around the world have band together. Now, that don't mean they know what's going on, and they should want to know what's going on because it's what makes it awesome. But it's the same thing with 2020. A lot of you passed the test, but look how many people failed it. Look how many people who did not stand up when they were supposed to stand up, did not get vocal, did not look like a you know what, didn't look crazy to people. They cared about what other people thought, trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to look a certain way. They didn't look like some of you that I know in here and myself who I don't care what people think. I don't care. You could take me to the guillotine and I'd have been fine with it if that's where we have been at that time in history. It wasn't. But if they had said, well, if you don't do this, we're taking you right down here, we're chopping your head. Well, let's go. Do it. All this talking, you ain't doing nothing. So see, so many people focus on all the barking and all the negativity and all that. And these people ain't got a leg to stand on. Now, I'm going to use a slang saying that my dad used to say just because I can honor him with it. He said, he'd say they ain't got a bucket to piss in and a window to throw it out of. Well, that's what these people are. They ain't got a bucket to pee in and a window to throw it out of. But so many people focus on that because they bark the loudest. I ain't worried about a dog's bark. I'm worried, does he bite? But I'm not worried either because I know that God will help me take care of the dog. So when you look at President Trump and you look at the grand scheme of things, where we are right now, all this Iran thing had already been settled because North Korea had already been settled. He just posted a photo on Truth a couple days ago of Kim Jong-un. I'm like, man, first photo of Kim Jong-un in a long time. Nobody's talking about it. The liberals don't talk about Kim Jong-un anymore. Remember, President Trump was supposed to start a nuclear war with Kim Jong-un in North Korea way back in 2016, 2017. We done got 10 years out, and we ain't had a single nuclear anything from Kim Jong-un. I personally think he's hiding all the Twinkies over in North Korea. I think that's probably what he's been doing. Other than that, So you look at everything, people have a short memory. Look at all the rhinos right now there's a few of them out there that's legit. Now, X is a captured operation. That's why it's called X. X marks the spot. The blue check, Palantir, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Elon Musk, yada, yada, yada. It's all simple. It's a captured operation. That's why so many people are saying certain things on there. And that's why they have thousands of followers and they don't even say anything that's remotely close to anything great. Too many names, too many faces, too many lips, too many people trying to be somebody. And uh, so, but when you look at the operation going, first off, we're still ongoing. I know people get tired of hearing that, but it's 45-47. We're not through with 47 yet. But we're getting more to the glory phase, obviously, because you're seeing all the things to do with June the 14th, President Trump's 80th, the flag's birthday, 249th birthday. And then we're getting close to our 250. All right. And the celebration that's going to go on. But we're still not lawfully done. That's the big key thing is that we're still lawfully in the restoration, which is a military government. And President Trump's been, saying certain things that highlight this. And it's just straight out of the playbook of President Eisenhower. And it's to make sure, like all the people that he's endorsing and nominating, like Barry Moore in Alabama. There's a runoff tomorrow in the state of Alabama. So if you're in Alabama, you vote for who President Trump endorses. You don't change your mind. Now, there's someone local in Alabama that everybody likes. I think he's a sheriff, and he went and endorsed the candidate that's running against President Trump's pick. I don't know if he's a buddy of him or something like that, but he needs to be lambasted. His emails and phones need to be lit like a Christmas tree in July in a trailer park in Mississippi. All right. That's what needs to happen. Even though we're in an operation, this guy's on such a low level, he needs to be lit up. Going, I think you need to lose your seat there, buddy. You're not listening to your commander. All right. So all those things, when President Trump endorses all these people, it ain't most of them. The most applies to the either or that's coming up. Every single place that President Trump has endorsed, every single person, they're either a highly successful businessman or woman, and or, very key, and or they're a special operations or Navy SEAL veteran. That is straight out of the playbook of President Eisenhower and five-star general. Rare 5-star. We've only had 8 5-stars post the Civil War. Rare 5-star. Plus, he was the commander of the world. All right, supreme commander. All right. So this was straight out of his playbook. Was in a military government. After a catastrophic event of a continuity of government, in a military government, you set up a military government where you can sustain. So you got to get in all the right people who you don't have to worry about at all, who's going to undercut you, backstab you, lie, or even be, getting some kind of fraud or anything of that nature in their offices. That's why that's so key. And some of you out there probably have family and friends who will absolutely claim and be the biggest President Trump supporter, and they'll go against, I ain't vote for him. I like this person. Well, that's where you got to stand up and say, well, you don't support President Trump then. What are you talking about? I voted for him. That don't mean a thing. If you're not going to follow through with his plan, not knowing his plan, you can't be much of a supporter. So Iran and all these things, this stuff's already happened. And people out there, the normies have to see it that way. I call them the target audience, but the normies, the sheep, they have to see it play out this way. You don't. That's why I keep reminding people on my Facebook. Facebook has more of your laggards than anywhere. They're the people who are dragging for sure with their news, etc. But I remind people, if you look, my page is designed to help you know the plan of President Trump. It's the straight up military laws, the military orders, and then how they pair with federal. If you call that a conspiracy theory, I would deport you if I was president. So you better hope God doesn't have it fit for me to ever be in president, because I would deport you for that. I would find a way to deport you just for something that simple. Because we cannot sustain America with the mindsets of what we have out there, even in some of the conservative minds and the Republican minds. You can't have the mindset that, oh, well, that's their job and they'll do it. No, you have to be in there seeing what they're doing. They got to be transparent. You got to hold them accountable. They need to know their responsibilities. And if they want a position in a public office, then they need to be held to that. But holding someone accountable means that you have to be accountable to knowing how the functions and operations are of these offices. It's a two-way street. And that's why it's so humorous to me to hear when people out there get mad and all these other things about or frustrated on. Like, it's real simple. But people are running to Sean Ryan. Oh, he's a Navy SEAL, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. He's got a publicist. And that publicist is getting paid big money. All right. Ask me how I know. Because I've had publicists before in country music. And I had a publicist to take me around on the radio tour back in 2023. Now, my publicist was operating completely different than those publicists, and only I could show you that. But these publicists out there, all they care about is money, money, money. Some of them are getting paid $40,000 for 6 months. And they got 10, 15, 20 clients. Do your math. All right. So some of these people out there, they're just prima donnas. Yeah, they got the resume, they got the look, they got the sound, boy, and they can, but when they close that screen off, when they shut their phone down, close their screen off, or walk off of the stage back to where you don't have access to, what are they doing? Now, everybody who knows me, when I'm at a stage somewhere and you see me walk off stage or whatever it is, or been backstage or whatever the setup is, what am I doing? I'm still talking laws and orders to people. When we go to dinner, I'm still talking laws and orders to people. When I'm in my private, I'm reading manuals, publications, directives, instructions, etc. What are these people doing? Not that. They ain't doing that. And that's why you'll see them when they get on their sets. They'll have a little script right there. They'll look down at it. They'll have a little paper there. Now, some people have notes. I take notes myself to stay on point, but you can tell the difference in the context. You can tell the difference in the delivery. You can tell the difference in what's being given to you as well with what's on those papers. Most of those news anchors, they're doing stuff right before it, like a cram study. So it's important to know where we are right now in history to catch up as well. I know some people want to know exactly what's going on with Israel, what's exactly going on with Iran, what's exactly going on with certain things, but you also have to remember where we are and what we've been brought to. And Israel and Iran are your two biggest playing fields for the last, you can say hundreds of years. Naturally, people say that, but let's just go for the sake of the last 70, 80 years. The dynamics of what's taking place with 1948 in Israel, but what really happened in 1967 with Israel, and then what took place with Iran starting in the 70s, the late 70s, and work your way forward. And so many people complicate things. You don't have to complicate it. It's not that complicated. President Trump said a quote in 2020, and too many people try to just tag it to COVID. Don't do that. It's a phrase that you can take and you can interchange a word out and put a different word in. He said, the cure cannot be bigger than the problem. Well, just remove the word cure. Put in solution, solvent, answer. The solvent cannot be bigger than the problem. The solution cannot be bigger than the problem. You don't need 14, 15, 10, 5, 147, whatever number. You don't need that many laws with an order. You don't need that many orders with a law. You need a law and an order and someone to carry it out. If there's a law already there, well, all you need is an order. And then you got to have law enforcement of the type of whatever the mission is to run it, to carry it through, to see it through. So many people are trying to just make this complicated. It's not. And then you'll hear people out there, they'll say, oh, well, I've been knowing for years. No, you haven't. You couldn't have. You couldn't have known until the laws and the orders were put into place. Some of the laws were already there, the orders were not. Some of the laws were not there, and the orders were not there. You can't have a law. You can't have an order without a law. So you'll hear podcasters out there, I've been doing this for... No, you haven't. Because President Trump rolled down the escalator in 2015, but he didn't become president until January 2017. His first big national emergency in an executive order was December 2017. So things didn't get rolling really good until about 2019 and 2020. And then what did 2020 do? It pulled a mask over everybody's head in another kind of way, all pun intended, right? It pulled a mask over everybody's head and people quit doing what? Focusing on the mission, if they even knew at all. Most didn't. That's why the Bible, when you think of Peter in the boat, he gets to walk on the water. Jesus says, come on out here. Well, he started walking on the water. Then all of a sudden, he started sinking. But you know why he was sinking? He was sinking because he was sinking. He took his focus off of Jesus Christ. Now, whether you believe that or not doesn't matter. It's a good analogy even if you don't believe in God and Christ and the Bible. He took his focus off of God and Christ commanded him to come out. Said, come out. He started focusing on the wind and the water, the waves, and the storm. So when you take your focus off of President Trump and his plan, well, you got to know his plan to trust it. You can't trust the plan without knowing the plan. You can't trust the man without knowing the plan. And there is a plan there. And it had to be, with all the things he's been doing, it had to be a plan there. And it had to be ironclad. Because of all the things he's doing that rhinos even, Republicans think is unlawful. It's not. They have no clue about Joint Publication 3-57. They have no clue about Title 10 and the applications of it, depending on the setup and the scenario of what we're facing. No, you don't want to deploy regular military. You don't want to, but it depends on what took place and what the setup is. And President Trump told everybody in 2020, our gravest threats are not abroad, they're within. We're fighting an invisible enemy. He wasn't talking about COVID. He wasn't talking about that. See, so many people, because they didn't know the plan, they didn't know the laws and orders, they didn't know applications of those, and they don't know strategies and tactics, etc. They just grasp on what they think they know, and that's okay from an ignorant standpoint, but ignorance means you can be educated. Stupidity means you can't. So sometimes ignorance sounds tough. It sounds like a insult, but it's really not. Ignorance just means you don't know. You don't know that you don't know. But if you're willing to be educated, then here's what's going on. So what the liberals have been doing lately, if you've been watching the regular, what the normies and the sheep are seeing, they think that President Trump's been struggling with this deal. He hasn't. If President Trump walked in every time and snapped his fingers for the normal crowd to see, if he went in and just, boop, gas, $3 to $1.50, boop, deal done with Iran. Boop. If they just did this on every aspect and every facet of our life, guess what people would expect? They would become lazy. They wouldn't trust a system of good people. We have a system that we have established. Now, a lot of you don't like fiat. That's okay. You don't have to like it. But we, as a society, have built up so much infrastructure, so much industrial, everything. We've built this thing so big, you can't just go in there and rip the rug out. You got to bring it back down. And that's going to take time because all these different systems out there, accounting, and then your oil industries and all your different, I mean, every aspect of accounting and all these different industries, it's got to account for this money. And you got to spend money to make money. And then companies, all the different kind of oil companies, all the different kind of industrial companies, they all have other entities they have to work with where they exchange services, et cetera, et cetera. You can't just rip the rug out. So that's why you hear a lot of frustration in the quote unquote patriot world, because the quote unquote patriot world are all about hoorah and hoorah and I'll kick your butt, but they don't know anything about finances and accounting. Or they get too much into I'm going to be a multi-trillionaire. I'm going to surpass Elon Musk. I bought all my Iraqi dinar. And when they redo this and that and the other, I'm going to be a multi-cripinaire. And went and got on that. And I've got buddies that we're trying to tell people, that ain't how it works. Sorry. That ain't how it works. You're not going to be a multi-krypton trillion quadrupinaire, whatever you are. It ain't going to happen like that. It just ain't, it don't work like that. And so many people have got caught up because you listen to things that feel good, sound good. It might be good in a fairy tale world, but they ain't in the real world. In the real world, my dad dies. He's not here. That's the real world. All right. In the real world, you have things you got to do that you got to be held accountable for, things you have to do, right? Responsibilities. That's the real world. And the real world is you can't just rip the rug out. We have established this. We have allowed everything to grow so big. And until majority of the sleepy Americans value education and value laws and orders and how they work and how they operate and who does it and who's doing everything, until the majority of Americans are valuing that responsibility and accountability and transparency and those, then it's going to look like this for a while. So you got to pick your battles and you got to take your battles, and then you got to win those battles one by one, slowly but surely. And so that's what President Trump and the 45-47s had to do. It's a perfect strategy and tactic, but you have all this resistance out there because people just refuse to study and read and see what is actually taking place. And a lot of them are still enabling themselves to listen to a bunch of mouths that don't need to be heard or listened to. And that's harsh in a lot of ways. But at the same time, most of them are just opinions with no base whatsoever. No basis. And especially no basis in what President Trump's doing and what the military is doing lawfully, and then also how it pairs federally. And it takes time too, and it sucks. It sucks that our judicial system takes so long, because by the time something comes out 5 years later, then the people who thought they cared about it 5 years before all of a sudden don't care anymore. But that is also a product of having too many laws. And that's what Marbury versus Madison 1803 was about. That any statute that looks like a law that doesn't support the Constitution, it should be void. So why do we have so many laws? I mean, you think about the laws that we have out there. We have laws that say you can't spit on a sidewalk from like way back in whatever 1800s. But they also have all these other stupid laws that we've allowed people to come in and pass because people are just butthurt, or they're sensitive, or they're sissies, or they're wussies. And you got to pass a stupid law. Had to waste all the time and money on legislation and put it on the floor, and we end up with a bunch of stupid laws. And those are the ones that bark the loudest, and those are the ones who will get the judge, or they'll get the courtroom focusing on something like that before they'll focus on something that matters. and that falls on the people. So people as a whole have to get back to what matters. And until we get a grasp on all this chopping your wiener off and all these other things, sorry, just got to be blunt sometimes. Until we get the focus back on things that matter versus all these safe spaces and this and that. No, you can't say that. You should, oh, you offended me and all. Until we get control of that stuff and we get back to what business is about, and we get back to, okay, a business is about production. It's either a service or it's got a product, and it may have both. My dad always said, I can be your friend, but we're not here to be friends. And so many people in business have gone to, they left the straight line management, which was all about production, and they went to all this team bull crap. Well, that's when he brought in HR and he brought in all these other things. And the first little thing, oh, we got go down to HR, right? So until we get away from all that bull crap and get back to what are we in business for? What are we here for? What's our goal? What's our mission? Until we get rid of all that and get some toughness back in everything and thicken some skin up, then it's going to look like this. And that's why it's so important for patriots to know President Trump's plan, like the back of your eyelids, like I know it. Because when President Trump is gone, when we get 20 years out, 30 years out, 40 years out, those of you who are maybe in your 40s, 50s, it's still going to apply. Because that's going to be when we're up in age. And who's going to be in control of these systems? And where we got college kids today and their priorities, they suck. And then look it up. That's why you hear me harping on country music. The country music of today is brainwashing. It's and why 40 and 50-year-olds listen to a bunch of 18-year-olds sing about a life they don't even live and never live. But most of the songs now are about sex, drugs, cocaine, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, look at where we are. That is the generations that we have got to get in and change. They have been taught laziness. They have been taught all this trash. That's our future. So what's going on right now in Iran really don't even matter. Because if they don't get the picture, then we're going to be right back where we were, because population now is rapid versus where population was right before 1803. 1803 was a time we hit 1 billion people on the planet. Before that, it was real stagnant. And then all of a sudden, bam. And then it's been rapid ever since. And the reason why that matters is because obviously more population, the more minds you have. Well, look where most of the minds are in the majority of the population. They're not where they're supposed to be. And people try to complicate things. People love drama. People love negativity. People love safe spaces. People love that trash. And President Trump is of that last generation, out of the generation of the greatest generation. And my dad was 4 years older than President Trump. So, you know, my dad, you never had to guess where you stood with him. He wasn't a liar. He didn't have to lie. You never had to guess where you stood with my dad in any of that generation, because they told you straight up what they thought, what they were feeling. They just told you. And sometimes, obviously, you didn't like it. But that's what President Trump is. And that's the last line of hope. This 45-47 is the last line of hope that we have to sustain through this, because if we cannot get to these other generations who are going to be the future, it's going to be even worse than what it has been. So see, all this stuff right now going on, it's already been, before President Trump rolled down that escalator. And then things like the fight on the lawn, so many people are trying to make all kinds of do's about it, but even something as simple as like Dan Scavino's post about the Weather Channel lying. The Weather Channel. The Weather Channel. Trying to tell people, oh, it's going to be 40 miles per hour winds and there's going to be mosquitoes there. You tell someone from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana about mosquitoes, and we're like, No big deal. We know how to deal with them. So see, so many people are trying to just again stay lazy. And that's what I've been watching over the last, few weeks. I see stuff on X. I surf a little bit on X. I don't uh I don't sit and just scroll, um but X is still captured somewhat. TikTok definitely is. I do not recommend TikTok whatsoever. Um, but Facebook, the laggards, and Telegram's the only really big patriots out there because that's the people who are reading and studying. Um, but getting your friends and family to read and study is literally like pulling teeth. Uh, you know, from a giraffe or something. It's wild, but we're on par. Everything looks perfect. But see, I can't talk from a normal standpoint, period. I talk from strategy and tactics. And once you learn the few strategies and tactics that's been applied, nothing's really changed. Uh, it's on par. And, but if President Trump were to go in again and just, then people would expect that. And then we would never have a society who would ever want to function again because they would expect every president to walk in there and just go, well, you can just walk in there with your magic wand and change the prices, then why don't you keep them there? That's what they would do. They don't understand supply and demand, and they don't comprehend real everyday life with real everyday working people. And they also don't have the capability to sit above and look down on the whole world as a whole. They only see it from their lens, and their lens may be very, very, very tiny. And then they get offended for being told that their lens is very tiny and that their IQ couldn't hold a flea fart, right? So, and the wheels on the bus go round and round. So ultimately, yeah, there's always going to be a tier system. The smarter, as President Trump say, the higher IQ and the merit base should be the ones in the driver's seat. And it tends to be that way anyway. But at the same time, the difference in a monarchy and then a republic would be to go, hey, the people who may not have the desire to be in a position, one, they may have the IQ but not the desire. But if they don't have either or, they need to recognize that what is true IQ, what is true merit, but also realize that they have the responsibility to hold those people accountable. Because no one should be in office unless they're answering to you, which means it's a daily job. It's kind of like they tell you in the military, don't join the military if you don't want to wake up every day and do the same thing over and over and over again, because you can't get out of it. Especially if you sign a contract, if you're enlisted. You better come with your A game every day until you're either wounded, retired, or get out. One or the other. So it's the same thing with office, and every American should want to do that. Every American should be just as eager and hungry to know what I know, because it gives you peace, calmness, and then you laugh at all the other stuff. You chuckle and laugh at everything else. And then you learn how to deal with adversity. You also learn how to deal with idiots. You learn how to deal with negativity. You just go, oh, well, they'll get over it because there's nothing they can do to stop it. So, President Trump, his birthday was obviously yesterday, 80th. I try to tell people, your 80s are typically the years that most people don't get to their 90s. My dad was 83. I thought he was going to live to be 100, but God had other plans. But most people don't live to their 90s. If they do, they're very blessed. And so your 80s. So when you look at the real President Trump, he deserves to sit, even though he already knows, but he also deserves to sit back in his private zone and know that the majority of the people out there that have wanted his head on a platter and these ignorant, low IQ, uneducated morons what they say for no reason at all, those are the ones that need to be told what President Trump has done. Basically, exoneration. And he deserves that. He don't, in reality, you don't wait till the man's 90 years old or take a chance on him being 90 and then do it. So that's how close we are to the finish line. And 45-47 will be accounted for. He didn't put that on his ball cap for nothing. That's not a AI model or anything of that nature. You see President Trump live all the time. You see him posting it all the time. So that's what you have to do is you have to fill your mind the same way when a Christian becomes a Christian, you got to wipe out your mind. Your mind don't become a Christian, your heart does. My preacher was talking about, we were talking about that today. He said, your mind don't become a Christian, your heart does. So when your heart becomes a Christian, you got to go in there and renew your mind and say, all right, out with the old, in with the new. So what you got to do is tell yourself daily. And the way you tell yourself daily is through President Trump's plan. And it's clear, clear, clear. It's all in the 45-47 blueprint. And like I tell people, if you can't afford my books, well, I have the same content on my pages. You just have to piece it all together, but it's there. It's ironclad, it's solid because it's all of the laws and orders. And then I take the strategies and the tactics of the military and put that there. You don't have to speculate. You don't have to guess. You don't have to get over there on fake people like Sean Ryan and all. You don't have to get on all these fake people out there. They may be real people, but they're fake in their facade. They just all want a name and a face, and they're spewing a bunch of things that have no basis or foundation. And when you don't have a foundation, you have nothing. And that's what's going to get your feelings and emotions and all that all stirred up because you don't have a foundation. And so all those people, then you got to take President Trump at his word. And what did he tell you? He said, in my second term or third term, he said, anytime after my first, the people who were with me on my first, they won't be with me again. So he's telling you right there the whole thing's an operation. Dan Scavino wasn't with him as far as the a position. He's just a friend of his. But Dan Scavino is the only person that you've seen his name be with him visually. You got Devin Nunes, but Devin Nunes is running Truth Social. So that's not in an actual position, a presidential position. All right. So when you look at that, you telling me there wasn't at least one person who wouldn't have been a loyalist to President Trump? So when you take that common sense and logic and then apply it, you know there were people who were loyal, but this is an operation. It's a plan. It's a strategy. So the whole thing is that. And history will account for it. It's got to. That's what exonerates President Trump. That's what lets that man live in peace and harmony, and also his name forever exonerated in history moving forward for the generations that really need it. The ones who live and don't know right now, and the ones who die and never know, they didn't matter anyway. They already found out in another manner, if you will. So it's the generations moving forward. So it's kind of where we are right now. I mean, I'm sure you might have a question. I don't know, Jenny, uh,
Yeah, if you want
but
to do some questions, I'm sure I'll probably a bunch of hands might be raising here soon. Because that's kind of a first. But yeah, everybody, if you guys have a question here on Telegram, feel free to request a mic. I will unmute your mic. If you are on Rumble or X Live, if you guys have questions, feel free to write your question down in the comment area and I will read them to Derek. So, okay, we got Donna Lawrence. She's raised her hand. So go ahead, Donna. Your mic is unmuted. Go ahead, Donna. Go ahead, Donna. You requested a mic. Push the blue button in the middle of your screen.
Oh, sorry, I was talking.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Derek. I don't know if you would know what my options could be. I'm in the middle of trying to burn the CD I play the piano. I'm 70 now, and I started lessons when I was 7, so it's a long time. Anyways, and my favorite stuff is classical music, and then I have one country music, sheet music that when I had lessons growing up, or as a teenager, I think, was "Take Me Home, Country Roads" by John Denver, and so that one I play a lot in honor of you when I play it. But would you know, Derek, if I get a CD burned for that, I picked all these really cool songs that each one has a meaning for the military operation. Like, for instance, my favorite one is called "Buzzing Bee." It's from 1944. This guy wrote this. It sounds like a bee buzzing all over the place, and then it lands at the end. So I thought that could be that for this military sting operation. Can you hear me, everybody?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we hear you.
Oh, okay. So I've tried to mail President Trump something during like the 2020 time with election and all. I don't know if he ever got it, and I don't know. I looked online. There doesn't seem to be an address I could mail something to him. But I'm going to make 2 copies. One for you, because you're the one we wouldn't know about this without you and all that. And I wanted him to have one. I was hoping he could have had one for his birthday yesterday, but or whatever day. But I didn't make it. Would you have any suggestions, or would it be okay to mail 2 to your post office box? We should mail stuff to you. Or what would you say? Anything?
Well, I personally don't. I don't have. Well, I have access to President Trump via certain people, but
Right.
you know
Yeah.
those kind of
Yeah.
things, any kind of packages, stuff like that, it's gonna be going through Secret Service, and most of the time they just, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you
They
know,
probably don't.
well, it's
They don't.
kind
For
of,
security, for security, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
That's what
security,
I would think.
security and protocol. Here's the other thing: is like it's like when I explain the music industry to certain people, you know, it,
Mm-hmm.
some get mad, they get mad. Some people do because I'm like,
Oh
well, but
no.
like I wouldn't go to. I know plenty of number one hit songwriters and artists, but I wouldn't go to them personally until I had a reason to. Uh,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the one doing that personally. So like with me,
Mm-hmm.
I do protocol, and President Trump is a very one. He's in a different position right now, unique, but he's also in a protocol
Mm-hmm.
position. Um,
Sure.
things
Yeah.
like that. And then two, you got to think of every American that wants to get something to President Trump. He is the most popular man on the planet,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like I'll just something personal. Like I mean I know a lot of people personally, um,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know George Strait personally. Now I've been in his office many
Mm-hmm.
times. I know all his people very well, but it wouldn't be protocol for me to
Yeah.
try to get to George, right?
Right.
Because look how many people love George Strait. And
Mm-hmm.
so, now I know his people and I write with some of his writers still to this day. I
Mm.
still don't tell them, hey, can you get this on the George Strait? I know the
Right.
protocol, right? And even
Yeah.
I abide by that. So, and I know President Trump's big on protocol, and right now
Yeah.
we're in that position where, uh, he's more or less the real President Trump, especially he's cruising back there, uh, and he likes discovery too. Now he loves Dolly Parton and he loves Elvis, huge Elvis fan. So when you're sitting at Mar-a-Lago, he's in control of the music system.
Mhm.
And you may hear 9 to 5 10 times in a row. He'll literally play a song 10. He played Pavarotti 9
Mhm.
times in a row one night. He played Phantom of the Opera 8 times in a row.
Wow.
So, and you ain't
Mhm.
nothing you can do about it. But now, if he discovers something, it's kind of like his discovery in another way. Like if he finds someone that he
Sure.
likes, and so it's kind of a catch
Yeah.
there where it's like
That's
what he
okay.
likes, and then
Mhm.
uh, but with me, I get this all the time. I opened up an email for people to email me, and I say, "Hey,
Uh-huh.
I'm taking on." I said, "What I want to do is I want to produce a few artists out there, and we're gonna put in everything that every Billboard artist gets. I started getting emails from people pitching songs to me, not me saying, "Hey, do you know someone out there who's a singer that's probably 25 or 35 years old, lived a little life, male or female, doesn't matter." No, I put that out. What did I get? I got all these songs being, "Hey, this would be a great song for Derek," and I'm like, I don't
Oh,
take, and I'm not offended. Well, I don't want people
mhm.
getting offended, but I'm a songwriter, so I
Yeah.
write my own music, and
Yeah,
I
you
don't
don't
I
need
don't
help.
take outside music just because one, if something ever happened to their song and they go, "Oh well, I sent this song to so and so, and now it's out here on this that," and I didn't record it, but someone else got a hold of it somehow, or maybe someone hacked their email or something happened. They go, "Well, I sent that to Derek Johnson. That's the only person I've ever sent it to." But let's say some schmuck out in Nebraska recorded it, and they're like, "Well, how did this guy get it?" Well, that's happened before in history. And so what I do is tell people I don't accept outside songs because one, I already have my writers, and also I already do my own writing. So it's kind of like that where, you know, that's all I tell people is, well, that's my structure and setup, and it works for me. And that's why it does stink in a lot of ways. But George Strait, I have plenty of songs that would be great for him, but he has a protocol and structure, and he's been doing it for 45 years. And it's the same thing with anybody else. It stinks in a lot of ways because you're like, man, if he just heard this, I've thought that many times, but I have to follow protocol myself, and it stinks sometimes.
Yeah, I hear what you're talking. I hear what you're saying, Derek. All right, you guys. I'm gonna encourage you guys. You guys want many of you, in the past when Derek's on here, you want to ask questions, but typically we just kind of go through the whole conversation. But have your questions. If you guys have questions, raise your hand. I will unmute your mic. So we got Chris and Roderick up here. So go ahead, Chris. Your mic is unmuted. Ask Derek your question. Go ahead, Chris. We can do probably about, let's see, Derek gives us typically 90 minutes of his time, so we got about 30 minutes. We can do Q&A for that. So Chris, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to other people. So going once, going twice, Chris. All right, moving on. Okay, so let's see. We had Kelly Douglas. Go ahead. Your mic is unmuted. Kelly Douglas, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. Guys, if you request a mic, please be mindful of the time. Okay, go ahead, Kelly. Try again. Are you there? Kelly Douglas.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, we can. And now we can't. Why don't you go out and come back in, request, and then we'll grab you
Can you
mic
hear me
again.
now?
Keep speaking. Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Kelly. Go out and come back in. Cha, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted. Go ahead, Cha.
Good evening, and thank you so much. Uh, Nice
Hello.
to have you back, Derek, Jenny. It's always great. There was something I saw last night that I looked around, I couldn't see answers. They're probably there, and I've missed it. The fighters coming in when they were entering through, I guess it was through the White House. I don't know what part. There was a couple that saluted some of the military there, and then when they exited, coming out to the walkway, walking up to the octagon, the people, the military they passed came to attention. Can you explain the reason for that? I know that it probably has something to do with the symbolism and moving from Flag Day last year and this year what we did. So can you comment on that, Derek? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I haven't got to see that clip yet. I was actually kind of crazy. I was busy last night a little bit with some certain things I was doing and with family that I'd already scheduled with. But yeah, you know, most of that was military the whole evening, which is also why it's pathetic that liberals were out there, the few that are barking. But most of the whole event was, it has a lot of symbols out there. There's a lot of things that I know. One of my colonel friends has broken down some things that the symbolization behind it, and most of this stuff won't be brought out until later on down the road anyway, until people are willing to accept that. But That's why it's important. Of course, right now it's not as well. It's important. Let me think of the right word. It's not as out in the open in another manner, like when they had actor Biden in from 21 to 25, like when President Trump was saluting during that time period. And then also they had, which this is humorous, but they would have an Air Force pilot next to a regular civilian, and the civilian was saluting with the Air Force pilot. We don't, civilians don't do that. So, like, it was more obvious during that time period, especially people who would catch on and things like that. But I'd have to see the exact clip, and I'll go back and rewatch it and slow everything down again and look at certain things and what uniforms they were wearing and zoom in if I can. Um, but I didn't see that exact clip, so I don't really want to comment completely. However, when uh, it's always protocol in military, anything like it depends on your rank. Now, what's funny is in the Army, and I can't speak for everybody else, but in the Army, like if you went to like Fort Bragg, as of about 20 years ago, Fort Bragg, they wanted, it was old school. So a private would salute a sergeant. A sergeant would salute a sergeant first class. A sergeant first class would salute a first sergeant. They were real old school. They went by every rank saluting. On most bases, it's just enlisted saluting your officers, period. And even uh, the most decorated Green Beret enlisted sergeant major would salute the newest lieutenant. I mean, it's just how that works. But when you're outside versus inside. So, for example, when I was in New York a month ago, I used a guy in the audience who was a Marine Corps veteran and didn't even, you know, I I set it up perfect, and it was funny. He actually did the wrong thing first, and he went, "Oh, we're inside." I'm like, we are inside. I'm like, okay, pretend we're not inside. So see, it, he went straight up to straight protocol because we were inside. And if you were inside, you wouldn't be wearing a cover, meaning a cap. So those of you that don't know terminology out there, a cover would be your like a cap or a hat. So we were inside, and he was correct on that. I'm like, oh, that's that's right. So I'd set it up perfect everywhere else, but then he was thinking, where are we going with this? And he went straight to attention versus parade rest. And I said, oh, just pretend we were already inside and the commander walks in. And then he did it. And it was on command. So, and everybody who saw, in person saw me and him, we were in sequence with each other. Now, you'd have to know that we never served together. You'd have to know that I didn't know him before that. We didn't plan that. But, and you could tell by him slipping up the first time that we didn't plan that. But we were in sequence. And so when you get outside, there's certain things that are automatically protocol that the military will do, depending on, what's being presented. Sometimes you can't see things either on TV that maybe there's colors being presented, meaning a flag, or something that you just can't see with your eye on television that they're seeing. It's the same thing. I'll tell you a funny story. I always love telling this particular story. At Fort Sill, Oklahoma, my buddy and I were walking to a store one day. We had to walk forever on Fort Sill's base because it's such a big base. And we were walking on the sidewalk where you're supposed to be, and we saw these other soldiers walking. Well, here comes a van, and it had the little flags on it, which meant, hey, there's a commander in there. Well, we saw it coming. We stopped. We saluted it. He saw us. He rendered his salute. We rendered ours. That meant we were free to go. But the two across the street did not do that, and it was clear. Like it's not a big road. It's just base highway, and they didn't. And you heard that driver put that he locked those brakes and did it on purpose because it's when you hear that right beside you, they jumped. They thought the vehicle was wrecking, but they jumped. Well, Sergeant Major, the back door opens up, and this big old Sergeant Major hops out, and all you could hear was Morse code. It was a bunch of cussing. Well, they didn't salute that vehicle. So, see, it's the military, you're always looking for colors, and you're always looking for if there's a commander like that in the vehicle. Always. And so that's why the military is such a different life. So I have to go back and look at that clip, but it could be that they saw something somewhere else, and they it may have been colors passing. It may have been a commander of some sort. It could have been President Trump walking by. You just never know what it is. So I have to go back and look, but and I always break them down anyway. I always go back and I break down every video to the best. I get the big highlights out of it. So if it was something real crazy, unique, and different, then you'll know I'll do it for sure. But so far, everything right now has been pretty much protocol, but it's still part of the operation. They're still showing your JAG headbands. They're still showing you your military intelligence headbands, and they're still showing you the psychological operation headbands heavily. Anything with President Trump, which still shows consistency with January the 20th, 2017, and also what they showed you during the quote unquote Joe years. With the psychological operations and civil affairs headband. So, but yeah, I'll go back, be breaking that down tonight. So,
Thank you, Derek. All right, let's go. Hang on a second, Chris. Are you wanting to speak now?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Hi, I just wanted to say my condolences for you losing your father, and thank you for your service. And my question is kind of simple. When you were saying we have so many laws that we need to probably eliminate some of them, the bad ones, but you're also saying the War Powers Resolution Act is unconstitutional, and that's what President Trump is using because it is the law of the land. And I was wondering if you could just touch on that to help me understand what you're saying there.
well, thank you for the condolences. First off, I appreciate that. And then, yeah, so I'm reflecting what President Trump's saying, that it's unconstitutional, meaning this. Right now, the people out there in the target audience, if you will, the normal people, the average Americans, they just hear the word law and order and they don't know anything about it. And they can be fed all kinds of stuff in their ear and it could be completely wrong. And so until they sink their teeth in everything like that, they're not going to know. The unconstitutional part means this. Right now, the average American thinks that President Trump is using all these things. In reality, he's actually not, in another way. Now, there's things that's been added to Chapter 50, Title 50, Chapter 33. There's been things added to it, but that's a lot for visuals. The same thing with if you go to the executive orders on the Federal Register, it still shows all of Joe Biden's. But President Trump told everybody in November and December that they've all been terminated. Well, it don't reflect that on the Federal Register yet because we're not out of this operation yet. But in reality, President Trump is using a strategy and tactic that dates even pre our foundation. Most of our military laws comes from Great Britain. All right. Now you can have people freak out over that because people think about Great Britain and they'll say, oh, their opinion hasn't mattered since 1776. Yada, yada. You'll hear all the jokes. But in reality, all our military laws and strategies and tactics stem from that. So what President Trump's doing is he's taking strategies and tactics that have been in laws for years and also in publications, manuals, etc. And he's using the military government now. It was a continuity government before, but before that was a military occupation. Now, military men like myself and other veterans out there, they've heard the term occupation for years just in a normal setting. Like when we occupy Iraq, when we occupy Afghanistan, when we occupy their government, they've heard that and it's made them go, well, we've always occupied. There's a huge difference in the wartime commander and the terminology that President Trump's using. So when President Trump says the War Powers Resolution is unconstitutional, what he's talking about is when Roosevelt gave Congress an ultimatum on December the 8th, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor. He gave them an ultimatum. He said, the Constitution is not very clear in the sense of how they were trying to twist it. He said, it made me the commander of the Army and the Navy, and it made you declare the war. But he said, I have an obligation due to the Army and the Navy and also the military laws. And he was talking about the military laws and doctrine then and the strategies, tactics, etc. He said, I have an obligation. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, I'll have to do that. And he's basically saying, who do you think the military is going to listen to? Me, the commander, or you, the Congress? They're going to listen to the commander, right? And that's when you go to our artillery and our weapon systems, et cetera. Think about that aspect of it. So what President Trump's alluding to is the fact that our founders never would have dreamt that Congress, men and women, would have weaponized their very wording and structure and everything. Because back then they had a few differences, but it wasn't like it, nothing like this. And if you look at John Adams' quote, he said the Revolutionary War was not a product of that. That wasn't the revolution. The revolution was the minds of the men and women who were tired and fed up, and they weren't going to have any other way. And that's why they had the Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution. The war was just a product of the people fed up. All right. And then the others that resisted their, I don't know what I call it, fed upization. That's my new word. But they were tired of that. So when you fast forward to 73, you got to look what had already happened. And I've broken this down before. And it's a great question. I love breaking it down. 1941, the War Powers Act came about, the first War Powers Act. The second War Powers Act in 42 had nothing to do with rewriting the Powers Act. It just had to do with land and naval use. So it didn't disregard the first one. The first one is what Congress went in 73, and they called it the War Powers Resolution. They didn't call it an act to begin with. They had to go back in and change that because so many presidents and so many people had a problem with it that they had to go in there and put the word act on it at a different time period. All right. Now go back before that. This is what you got to look at. You got to look at 41. Then you got to look at our involvement with Japan, which Pearl Harbor. Then you got to look at our involvement with Germany, all at the same time, all these different things taking place. All right. Then you got to look at the Bretton Woods system had come in there about 47. All right. The financial aspects. We had just come out of the Great Depression. All right, so you got to look at all the dynamics that were going on. What Roosevelt was feeding those people, all this, the New Deal, and they got all of your grandparents or parents and grandparents. My grandparents may have been your parents, but it got all them to buy into these systems, right, and all these different things. And President Trump has alluded to this. He hasn't destroyed it in the sense of words yet, but he has alluded to that Roosevelt and that crew bamboozled people as well in a different kind of manner. So he got all these people to buy in these systems. The Bretton Woods system took place. Then in 1949, NATO was established. All right, then 1950, Korea starts up. Korea was our first big war outside of the U.S., outside of your war wars, in the sense of it was a man-made. It was diplomacy. It wasn't a real threat. It was all this bullcrap diplomacy that started up. All right. Then you got to look at the 1955. Vietnam actually started in 55. It didn't start in the 60s and the 70s like some people out there think. It actually started in 55. All the early aspects. So then you got to look at 61, and you got to look at 63, then you got to look at 68. We left the gold standard Act. Then 71, the Nixon shock, inflation, all these things started happening. Your money, monetary, money. Now rewind on 2 dates. Go back to 61. Go to Eisenhower's farewell speech, and he talked about the military-industrial complex. He didn't like where the military and medical fields were going due to money. Money. Then look at JFK in January of 63. He went around the Treasury. Went around the Federal Reserve, went straight to the Treasury. $4.6 billion. Well, look what happened 11 months later. All right, now let's rewind to one other big day, year. 1951, Congress put term limits on the president, but not themselves. Why? And nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in Article 2, Clause 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution does it say anything about Congress putting term limits. It just says 4 years in a term. And if you go back and read the Federalist Papers, the promotion papers of the Constitution, those were promotion papers that our three writers went around, but especially John Jay, James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, they went around to the different colonies back then in the States and saying, hey, this is going to be great for the people. Well, they had said that a president should serve as a king. But the difference being not a monarchy, but the people vote them in as many as they want. If I was 45 years old, qualified, and I wanted to serve till I was 90, as long as you wanted to vote me there and I wanted to be there and I was transparent and I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, that's what they meant. They didn't mean what you've been seeing today. And they didn't mean for Congress to take these powers into their hands and this diplomacy and all these other things that they've done. And they built their own system around the world. That's why President Trump called it the swamp. But that's also why you've seen him post. He posted these things too. He posted that someone posted not long ago and President Trump retruthed it. He said, President Trump's bankrupting the system on purpose. Well, he's bankrupting their system. He's not bankrupting you. You're not going to lose your bank accounts. You're not going to lose your 401ks and none of those things. He's bankrupting their system, what they established for themselves. Hunter Bidens of the world, Ashley Bidens of the world. If you were born into their society, you were okay for a while there until President Trump came along and we put an end to their quote unquote diplomacy. So in reality, the War Powers Resolution is fraudulent from the standpoint of Congress don't need to be doing that. If they can declare the war, they don't need an act to do so. They should be working with the president because it's a joint operation. And that's where our founders come in. Our founders established the three branches of government as co-equal to each other. Not one dominating the other, not two dominating one. They're co-equal, which means they all have equal power. Executive branch, well, that's your president. Well, he has control as commander of the Army and the Navy. Your legislative branch, well, that's the one that Congress deems, well, the Constitution deems that Congress declares the war. Well, they don't need an act to do so. They've used that act as weaponization against the president because in that act of the resolution, they made it to where a president had to declare a national emergency to use the military. How? The Constitution says he's the commander of the Army and the Navy. So if Congress has a relationship, we're talking about all 535 members of Congress, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, the representatives in their lane, the senators in their lane, and the president and the vice president in their lane, if they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing in their office according to their duty and responsibility, they don't need an act. They already have the control and the command via the United States Constitution, which is the highest law of the land. They didn't need an act. What that act did was put constraints on the president to use his military. Congress, a bunch of men and women who've never been in the military. See, so that's where abuse of power comes in. Now, that doesn't knock civilians who've never been in the military. You're supposed to know, and you're supposed to have your voice, and you're supposed to know these things, but you're also not supposed to speak out of turn and also speak when you don't know. So see, there's a balance there always. If you got a general who knows certain things and you're a civilian who don't know your head from a hole in the ground, then you need to stand down because that general is going to tell you a few things, right? It don't mean that it's belittling to you, right? So Congress all these years have become a weapon against you, us, the people, and they have made you inferior to them. Maybe not you personally in your mindset, but they've made people inferior to them. And they've made people to where they can't even question them. And if you question them, then, oh, how dare you question me? They have become manipulators, gaslighters, vain, pretentious, and all these other things. And they've done it on your taxpayer dollar. So you needed a guy like President Trump. You need people like me who don't give a dang about money, could care less about money. You need someone like me who can go in there and President Trump and different people all around to go, hey, I'll say it. I'll do it. It ain't going to hurt me. And then you're a disruptor. You're what they call an iconoclast. You're a disruptor to organize things. And that's what President Trump has done. So all of it's unconstitutional from the standpoint of you hear these liberals and Democrats say all the time, oh, we got the Constitution, we got to support the Constitution. Well, you might want to know it because you don't need half the laws we have because the Constitution already says that. And if the president's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and if the congressmen and women of Senate and representative, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, we wouldn't have to have half the stuff because we would have honesty, loyalty, transparency, accountability, responsibility, and all the other terms to match it. So see,
Amen.
it was a weaponization, and we got to get rid of all these weaponizations. And that's where the people come back in, though. Every person, you do have that authority and power, but you got to know what you're standing on, and you got to know how to use your voice. And don't yell, don't scream, don't cuss, don't do any of those things, unless you have to get some attention. But other than that, you got to hit them with their own language, their terminology. Mossy oak. I don't know how many deer hunters we have in here are hunters, but mossy oak is a camo we wear, and their motto is "Speak the language." Well, you got to speak the language, but you can't speak it if you don't know it. But when you know it and you speak it, you'll make them squirm. And when they start squirming and don't have an answer, then you know they're hiding something. Because if they know it, they could talk just like I. And they'd say, well, we did this, 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 and this. Or if it's an accounting question, they'd be able to break it down. They'd be able to break it down to you. And that's what you've seen through the past. None of these people can do that. Obama missed the most amount of days you can miss as a senator to still keep your seat. That's like voting for a class president who never comes to class, right? So people got to know these things. But that's all, the good thing about it is all this is going to be taken care of and settled. All these fraudulent laws and all these things, President Trump, they're cleaning all that out, and we'll clean it out. But what we have to do in the future is keep it that way.
Yeah, amen to that. Oh, hence why he's doing all the stuff he's doing right now, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna take a couple other questions, everybody. So let's
That's
see.
a great question, though, Chris. It's a great question, though. I hope
Yeah.
I answered it though, because it's tricky with terminology, right? So that's it.
All right. Okay, so Mary G, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead.
Hello, Jenny and Derek.
Hello.
Thanks for having this tonight, and my condolences to you, Derek, on your father and your family as well. My question to you: last night, one of the wrestlers grabbed a mic and announced to the world that Big Mike or Michelle Obama was a dude. Come on, America, y'all all know, right? Well,
Oh, and it's trending today,
it
FYI.
went viral. So my question, I know that Obama, or the one playing Obama, and the actress playing Hillary Clinton are going to have to go down soon, right? So I'm thinking, what are your thoughts on that announcement about Big Mike? And what are your thoughts on Obama and Hillary Clinton?
Well, yeah, and here's the thing, though. I've explained this to people. First off, it's humorous and it gets people talking in another manner because it's how do you get people interested in a topic but keep them on it? There's certain things out there that where we are today, it may be grotesque to some people, risque, etc. But where we are today with the way people are out, like I said, with country music, I would have never dreamt country music would be where it is today. George Jones, George Strait, I'm disappointed in him. He should be standing up more. But George Jones, Merle Haggard, all those guys be rolling over with what country music is today. But those kids out there that are listening to it and the 40 and 50-year-old, you can't, there's nothing I could say to them. Not a thing in the world that I could say to them that makes them interested in going, hey, I have Billboard hits. I'm a songwriter. I write all my music. I produce all my music. I'm a veteran. Why wouldn't someone want to support that? They don't. They don't care. And there's nothing I can say to make them care. There's nothing I can say to make them support it. So it don't matter how much me and my people get on comment boxes on my music page and comment and put up posts and, and comments and photos. It don't make my streams grow or anything whatsoever. And I say that to say that it's hard to get people to not only view a topic, but stay focused on it. So this is that unconventional warfare for sure that our founders and even my family members that were secret foxes and all the different things out there, all the different kind of special operations way back in the day. We're in a completely different world, but look what's happening. Like Jenny said, it's trending right now. It's a most people, the liberals, I call them the libtard. They are lit right now. All right, but it's planted that seed in their head. Now, personally, I don't want to think of any quote unquote person that looks like a female that has a Johnson. If I can just be a little humorous here, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah,
Period.
do it.
Right? I don't want to think about that. Period. But what it's going to do, though, is all those people out there that's never heard this, they're going to have to question it now. And because it's a trend and everybody's talking about it, every bar in America and every place going to be talking about it, it's going to get basically, branded in their head. And they're going to be like, what in the world? But UFC fighters are so tough that, you got to look at the other thing. They're tough. They're gruff. They get in the ring. That's real fighting. I love watching boxing matches. And my dad loved boxing with the old school gloves. But that right there is fighting. It takes all kinds of, to get in a ring like that. They're animals. And they love it. So you got to look at all that. And then obviously him saying what he said, it's all strategically planned. The other thing you got to have happen, though, is you don't want President Trump to take them down. You want them to burn their own castle. And see, what you do when you take over the castle in a situation like this, I've talked about this before, is you surround the castle. You have everything on lockdown, but you let them burn themselves down. You let them tell on themselves. You let them burn their own castle down. So like Hunter Biden, these laptops, he brought their castle down. He stupidity on his part brought part of it down, just leaving a laptop behind. And then who films all that kind of corrupt stuff? First off, so that was stupidity on his part. And then you look at everybody else and different things around and about. You let them bring it down, and you let them set the table. Now, in the reality, you'll have people who are soft and who can't handle what happens behind the scenes. But what would happen behind the scenes is when you take people hostage, if you will, or you take people into captivity, right? Well, you treat them with dignity and respect, but you also play mind games with them in another manner. Some will be right up front and tell you. Some of them have a guilty conscience. Some of them are dumb. Some of them have to kind of, like detectives. You see it on forensic shows. You'll see detectives. They have ways of saying, well, we know you were here. We have this, and this, and this, that, and that. And you're the only one who could have been there at that time period. Then you break them down that way. Some of them will play harder games. Some of them think they're invincible. So sometimes you can loop people. I call it the loop. President Trump calls it the weave. Well, that's filling everything in between. Well, the loop is where you loop them around, and then you can go back and you make them fill in the weave because you looped them so many times. And it's just all special operations, it's strategies and tactics. So with a situation like this, the Obamas and Hillarys out there, well, they already have half the nation. It ain't really a true half, but the normal audience thinks it is. They think it's 50-50 Republican Democrat. It's really not, but let's just go for it for the sake of. Well, if that half, they're going to take up for Hillary and Obama no matter what they do. So how do you get at least 25% of their audience? You're not going to get them all, but how do you get at least 25% would be like a good strategy. how do we get 25% of Democrats and liberals to go, what in the world have they been doing? And that's how you do it. You do things sometimes unconventionally, and you get them attached to the subject, and then you let whoever behind the scenes, that's what I've been saying, is Obama and Hillary have already been dealt with. That's why President Trump puts up stuff that he puts up, all the little AI videos of Obama getting arrested and all these things. But you got to get into the people. You got to make people care, get people focused on it. And, this was one of those that no one would have ever dreamt would be in a playbook, to get a UFC guy to get on a microphone and go, I'm surprised he didn't say it is even more funnier, but still, Michelle Obama's a dude.
I
Could have
thought
said
it
a
was
lot worse.
hilarious.
Could have said a lot
Yeah.
worse. But, and I won't say what I think he could have said, but I could just hear a bunch of my veteran buddies sitting around going, Michelle Obama has a. Anyway, so you get people stirred. So this is a great thing to get people stirred, and then you let the castle come down on its own, because now people are going to start questioning, and then people, Republicans, conservatives, patriots, are going to be all over the comment boxes, especially y'all, telling, yeah, we've been doing this for a while, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to get people stirred up, and it's going to keep them stirred. It's going to keep the pot stirred, and that's going to be able to allow for disclosure. So, and then look at Obama, and look at the video that they had not terrible, was about a year ago now, where he comes on the set with Big Mike, and she goes, oh, how you doing? You wouldn't say that to your husband, right? You wouldn't say that. Husband and wife, come on, people. So there's certain things they've been showing people already, the divorce rumors and all these different things like that. So, you know, it's all part of the strategy and the plan. Now, I've told people, and I'm okay with it. I got a buddy, we talk about this all the time. He's a secret guy. Don't want anybody to know who he is, but he's a big guy. But we talk about this all the time, that we're 99% correct and 1% because we're human. But I'd be okay with my 1% being wrong on this. But I have a feeling to believe that Barack Hussein Obama and President Trump are in on this together in another manner. Meaning you got to have somebody that's a fall guy. But you got to have somebody also who is the guy that people absolutely hate on one side, but have absolutely bamboozled you in another way. There's going to be somebody that is that big that's going to flip their table. President Trump can't flip their table. Nobody, no general. Look at the liberals, excuse my French, but bitching about aircraft flying over. Oh, look what they're celebrating. How dare these people? They think we're enemies, and they think that we're a bunch of hillbilly rednecks and all kinds of other things. Have no honor, dignity, respect for our military whatsoever. President Trump, there's nothing he could do to make those people see the true America, the real America, what America is really about, versus all the stuff that they've been told all these years, brainwashed, right? This was never about us staying divided. If this was all about us staying divided and not winning over X amount of people to the real reality, especially under God, one nation under God, but under God, then we didn't have to go into an operation. We just keep doing what we've been doing, because you will always have Republicans defending Republicans and conservatives, and you'd always have Democrats and liberals. We always had that. So you got to have a big key player. Well, Hillary ain't that. If you went up on the street to every Democrat and liberal right now and said, Obama or Hillary, pick one, they'd ditch Hillary so quick, it'd be a no-brainer. That would be 100% Obama. Every Democrat, I guarantee, I wouldn't say 100 again. I'd say 99% of Democrats and liberals would pick Obama over Hillary like that. So Hillary wouldn't be it. Bill wouldn't be it. No one trusts him either. We already know not to trust him just because of what he did, period. So when you look at, there's a card there, the Trump card, the ultimate Trump card. There's got to be a key player on the other side that exonerates President Trump. Don't be surprised if it ain't Barack Hussein Obama. Because think of all the different colors of the world outside of white. that are Democrats and liberals. If Obama came out and said, "Yep, da 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 da," he could still be punished, but he could still be the key player that goes, "Yep, this is what's been taking place, da 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 da, and this, that, and that." Don't be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see a lot of people maybe not be what we thought they
Because
were,
Obama
or
would flip the world on it. It
yeah,
would flip the world upside down
yeah.
on the left.
Yeah, so don't be surprised, everybody. We're going to see a lot more of that. I believe here coming in the coming days. People you liked may not be so good, and then vice versa. So, guys, I got to end this. I wound up taking another show. I actually am going to go do a show this evening with another podcaster. So, Derek's with me he has been every other Monday. So as long as everything permits for Derek, we'll see you back in 2 weeks, Derek.
Yep, the good Lord willing, I'll be here.
Oh, you'll be here. We want you back. We want you to be here. So everybody, next time if we do some Q&A, if we weren't able to get to your questions this week, hopefully we can get to them in 2 weeks. So with that, everybody, come back Wednesday. We're gonna have SGN on here. He'll be here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have Silk 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on my X Space. Then we're gonna have Dallas from PPN, and then Rick Anson from Brain IQ Alternative Healing. So with that, everybody, God bless you, Derek. It's so great to have you back. I'm really excited that you're back, and all the great information that you share with us. And I know the audience is excited too. So take care of yourself, my friend. If you need anything, I'm here at a distance, but and just know that you have an army of warriors standing right behind you, my friend.
Sounds good, and thanks for the condolences, everybody. Really do appreciate it.
Take care of yourself,
Yeah,
sweetie. We'll
okay.
talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.